Inter Miami has yet another head coach. Can he right the ship for a team that only has 2 points in the entire month of August? We're going to talk about it right now.
Stand up, we gon' make some moves tonight. You stand up, got something to prove tonight. So stand up, we ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright. We ain't gonna stall, never stop. We gon' make it all till it's out. We ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright.
Hey folks, what is going on? My name is Scott Churchson, and joining me, as is always the case, Mr. Ed the Mighty Quinn, and also Mr. Bill Akins, that you best know from covering not only the Riverhounds of the USL, but now the Pittsburgh Steelers for us as well. This is Soccer Sports Writers React, and today we've got a myriad of things that we're going to break down. Yet another head coaching change over at Inter Miami. The USL, MLS, we're in the final third of a season right now. Got some good things on the horizon as far as basically what's going on there. Good guest coming up next week, so we'll talk about that too coming up. But first of all, gentlemen, how the heck are you?
Great.
Doing
Thanks
good,
for having me, brother.
Yeah,
Cool.
doing well.
So let's kick this off and let's roll with it right now. Inter Miami has another head coach. You know, this has been kind of their thing lately. Obviously with Hoyes, it was only an interim thing, but Javier Mascherano stepped down. And now we have Kily Gonzalez, who has experience when it comes to the Argentinian coaching front. He was a winger. In my case, he's actually older than I am, which is an increasing rarity sometimes in the sport now. Ryan Richter being 37 years old with Philadelphia, so I really feel really old. But the biggest question, I'm going to turn this over to you, is this is an Inter Miami team that's struggling a little bit, falling behind, and honestly has only 2 points in the month of August right now. What do you think he's going to be able to do?
Go ahead, Ed.
I do remember him from La Liga. He was at Valencia, where I remember the most. He's another Argentinian, born, I think, in the same town as Messi. I'm not sure what they're trying to do in Inter Miami. Do you want a coach or do you want a buddy, right? A lot of these guys know Messi very well, know him intimately, and I think that the fact of the matter is they're an old team. They just are. Their international stars are older, right? And it's hard to keep them motivated and keep them going for 80 minutes. Messi at this point is a liability on defense. He just is. It's 11v10 most of the time, and you got to somehow infuse that young talent that comes through those academies down there because they do have talent, and you have to mix in there some sort of fire in the team to keep them going. Messi had a great loss with the loss of his father. I mean, he's probably questioning everything in his life, family, playing more football, all that stuff. Maybe he wants to move back to Argentina. I don't know. So bringing in, I mean, I understand why they brought him in. He does have experience. He doesn't know. I mean, he greeted them at the airport, him and Di Maria, when they won the Cup in 2022. So he's familiar with all the players. But I think after a while, the Messi experience has been great for MLS. There's no doubt about it. Viewership, sales, everything. Away attendance, it's been fantastic. But David Beckham has to realize that you want to have a more of a professional team as opposed to an aging all-star team. You're going to have to find somebody who's disciplined and not only knows the game well, but is able to handle all these personalities. Will he? I mean, maybe he will because he understands the Argentinian way. But I think the jury's going to be out, and the fact that they only have 2 points, and like we talked off show, Nashville's running away with it. It's going to be tough for them to get in. But if I were them, I'd focus on getting healthy, getting your system right, and then head it because you're going to make the playoffs, and getting ready to in the playoffs try to make a run.
Well, he inherits a squad that, obviously, captained by, Lionel Messi. I agree with Ed. I agree with Ed on pretty much all points. It's an aging roster. It's an aging superstar. He's taken over during a very challenging time for this club. I mean, they've stumbled into a 5-match winless streak. They've fallen in the standings, and I just, I don't know. It's going to be a very big challenge. I agree with that. I mean, you've got to stop. It's almost like they want to have this security blanket for Messi. Like, in order to keep him in the MLS and in order to keep him in Inter Miami, okay, we've got to surround him by people that he's comfortable with, I don't know. I mean, That's good in a way, but it's an aging roster. We've been talking about this, guys, for a couple years now. I mean, this isn't something new that, all of a sudden this year now they're this aging roster. They've been aging for the last 2 years. So, we've talked about this around this time numerous times about how they're going to have enough stamina to close the season out. I mean, last year I think it was they got lightning in a bottle. Really, I believe that, but and weren't able to get the job done. So.
Yeah, right now the average age of the players on Inter Miami per formation is 26.4, which is in the top half of the league right now. So it is a question in a lot of ways of basically just the wheels at this point and the long season. Because we still have, like I said, a third of the season left. You look at a lot of these players as well as having just gone through the World Cup and also just recently Leagues Cup, which, depending on how MLS is, I think sometimes they sort of phone that in a little bit.
Right.
But irrespective, World Cup took a lot out of them. Messi missed a couple games deliberately, and I don't think anybody blamed him just because of the fact that Argentina just ran him ragged because they were that close to another championship. Yeah. So,
I'm sorry, real quick. I misspoke. They did get the job done. I misspoke. It was a misspoke. I
didn't even notice.
Yeah, they did get the job done. I misspoke on that.
It's okay. But yeah, as far as the team goes, there's a lot of questions about whether or not this is going to fix things. I mean, it's still at the end of the day, regardless of I think who the head coach is of this team, it is still Messi's team first. And it's one of those rare situations, much like, and I'm going to use, like, say, LeBron, for example. Who's the head coach? Don't know. Who plays on the team? LeBron. And that's where I think the same sort of situation sort of happens here, where you have a player that is bigger than the head coach.
Right.
And you look at the rotating roster of head coaches that this team has had. You look at right now, let me see if I can pull this up. So, since Messi showed up, we had Tata Martino. Tata Martino, I remember. I'll talk about him in a sec. So, since Messi appeared, Tata Martino, Javier Mascherano, Guillermo Hoyes, who just basically was just the interim sporting director turned when Javier Mascherano stepped down, and now you got Kily Gonzalez. So, in the course of 3 years, you've had 3+ now head coaches, if you don't include Hoyes in that. So, this is a team that, not just with Messi, but I think as a whole, has had a rotating squad. Since the team started, I'll pull this up here. Since the team started in 2020, they had Diego Alonso, Phil Neville, Javier Morales, Tata Martino, Javier Mascherano, Guillermo Hoyes, and now Gonzalez. That's 7 in total since 2020, since the formation of the team. And I remember Phil Neville. Phil Neville was great. I remember basically Higuain's last game. He was such a delight for the one time I was there. Tata Martino was hilarious because Tata Martino talked less than Bill Belichick. And it was the greatest press conference ever because it's like, what are your thoughts on the performance tonight? Malo. Can you elaborate? No. And it was just like, done. And it was so hilarious because you got nothing out of this, man. Mascherano was good that way. He went back and forth. It was cool. But, it's curious to see what happens with Gonzalez in this case because I don't know. The question is, can this team right the ship? Can they stop Nashville, which is another thing we're going to talk about in a minute? Or is it just going to be more of the same?
Well, yeah. And like I said, they caught lightning in a bottle. They won it all last year. And sophomore slump anyone? Maybe that's what we're looking at here. Like I said, this hiring for me is a security blanket for him. For Messi being, deep ties. Like you guys were saying, they were both born in Rosario. I think they even overlapped as teammates for a while.
They did,
at some point in time. Yeah. So we all do know who controls the team. Right. When you say this, it takes me back to different sport, but here in Pittsburgh, when Mario Lemieux in his final years, Eddie Olczyk was the coach, and I can remember one time they said in camp, that they were all gathered around in a horseshoe, and he's like, all right, Eddie Olczyk's like, all right, we're gonna end the practice with a back skate, and Lemieux, they all looked at Lemieux, and he was like. And he's like, don't worry about that, guys. Let's just let's call it a day. Probably similar situation. Messi controls the team. Obviously, Gonzalez is probably more like a figurehead, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the job done last year.
They did.
I mean, I know that
They rolled last year.
yeah. Then the Argentina lost in the World Cup probably really, devastated Messi now, the passing of his father. I mean, there's probably a lot of things that, he's probably like really contemplating,
Everything.
Everything, life in general.
Ronaldo
At this,
done, it's him now.
and honestly, soccer's probably like, it's probably secondary, if not third, in his life right now.
Could be.
These might be questioning, why did I come back? Why did I? So.
I mean, you kind of think about it a little bit, and this is a weird reference in this case, but when Brett Favre lost his father, and he had that Monday Night Football game, I mean, he just lit that up that night.
Yep.
But as far as Messi goes, I mean, you look at the age of it, you look at his legacy. I mean, he's secured pretty much everything he possibly can right now, and
well, his father's not to cut you off. His father's a big reason why he's where he is. Mm-hmm. His father,
yeah,
huh?
His father marketed him. He got him
right. He would have never been where he's at if it wasn't for his father.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hands down.
And at this point, I mean, he comes in. He comes in with not the best managerial record. I mean, he was not that great back in Argentina. I just think that eventually you're going to have to deal with Messi, and that's kind of going to be, to throw a pun out there, it's going to be a messy breakup. Because when do you talk to him and say, hey, can you transition more to a coach now? I mean, do you have to do that? I know, but it's going to be some sort of breakup. He can't keep calling his friends from La Liga, and saying, hey, what are you doing? Why don't you come here? I mean, that's got to end soon. I mean, you look on their roster, there's a lot of homegrown talent there. And Beckham eventually has to deal with it. I mean, the experiment worked; it just did. Mm-hmm. But now you've got to look to the future, and who's next? Who's the next superstar that Beckham's going to lure to Inter Miami and have that maybe a better transition? Who's his next 35, 36-year-old?
I was going to say, can you go younger? No,
I don't know. I mean,
Petar Musa is staying in Dallas though, which is good because he's not even 30 yet, and he's Golden Boot leading right now.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting going forward. Can he right the ship? As long as he gets him in the playoff, it's like anything else. If you make the dance, you have a chance, right? And you have one of the greatest footballers in the world.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it from the standpoint of last year. Nobody expected them to win the cup last year. I did it, and this time last year, I'm like, oh, they'll make the playoffs, but they'll probably, they'll probably exit. They were just kind of hovering around, and that's what I said. They caught lightning in a bottle, and were able to get it done. And maybe we have something. Maybe we have a similar scenario this year. I don't know. Maybe he uses this as motivation, and But I mean, brand new head coach taking over in end of August. Yeah.
A
lot of
last third of the season.
Yep. So
I mean, on the plus side, you're doing it now. You're not doing the September, October, even November. He has the time. They're in a pretty good position. They're going to make the playoffs. So he has the time to adapt to the new location, adapt to certain things that are in there, and use the next couple of matches really as an experiment to learn his system, learn his style, learn the players better. So it's better now than later, I think, if you're Inter Miami.
Yeah, and when we're ready for our transition to the USL, I know a team in Pittsburgh that did that last year. They were kind of forced to.
Yes.
right.
Right?
From Bob to Rob.
Yeah.
From Bob to Rob.
Yeah.
So it could be something.
Right.
So, all right. So let's go that direction.
And I mean, totally different philosophies as well. Totally different philosophies.
Yep.
But yeah, we're actually in this case here, and by God, we're already pretty much into September. Talking a little USL at this point, where things stand here. Take it away, gentlemen. This is your department, a little more than my own. So,
Go ahead, Billy.
Go ahead, Ed.
All right, I'll go.
Go ahead, somebody.
You're pretty well set in the East as far as who the contenders are. I mean, the top four can flip-flop a little bit. I mean, you have Tampa Bay, they're running away with it right now. In USL terms, they're 6 points ahead. It's only 2 games with a couple games left. They just lost to Detroit City 1-0, which was kind of a little shocking. But Detroit City SC, they are third. Riverhounds, for them to contend, it's got to be points the rest of the way. You have to have wins, but you have to get points the rest of the way. Wednesday night was a perfect example of a team that, and we ask Rob, we ask the manager often, Rob Vincent, we ask him about the substitution pattern. And it is a science. There is a science to it, right? And Bill and I talked off air about it last night after our Pittsburgh coverage, Steelers coverage, and it's when do you make the substitution? They give up another late goal, another stoppage time goal, right? So are you making the substitutions? And I went and looked at the pattern last night. He did make a substitution at the 85th minute last night. So he did infuse a little bit of energy in there, but they have to get themselves right. They are up, down, up, down. Very hard team to gauge at this point. And like Bill said, very inconsistent. Tampa Bay Rowdies, very consistent. They just win, they get points. So the rest of the way for Pittsburgh, got to have points. I believe they'll make they're 11 points up from the Hartford Athletic. So they should make the playoffs. And having them in there, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, as you could tell by last year, not giving up a goal. I don't think you can win that way because they don't have necessarily all the defensive talent they had last year. But they did get Beto back last night or on Wednesday, Beto Yadrich, which is great because he kind of captains that defense, which allows the wingers to go up and really be effective. The west side of the USL, very tight. You have New Mexico and El Paso, who just beat the Riverhounds. And if you look at their last 5 games, El Paso has last 5 wins, and New Mexico has 4 out of 5, 4 wins and 1 draw. So that's the key in this league is points accumulation. You don't necessarily, obviously wins are great, but in this league you got to get points. That's just the way it works. We saw it last year. You just keep building points and points, and then in the playoffs, especially in the USL, it kind of has mirrored the NHL and the President's Cup because Louisville, best team, they went out last year, and when the Riverhounds had the best record, they went out. So it doesn't necessarily matter, where you are in the 8, as long as you get in, because it is a tournament that is topsy-turvy. And when you're one and done, lots of crazy things happen. Go ahead, Billy.
Western Conference is, only 8 points separate 8th from 1st.
Yeah.
Las Vegas to New Mexico. It's extremely tight. You've got El Paso right there as well. I think goal differential separates them, at that point because they're both at 37. Ed said it in the East, it's a little bit more wide open. Tampa Bay has been very consistent this year, and so is the Charleston Battery. Mm-hmm. And 1 and 2, look at that. That's 8 points that separate 1 and 2. So that just goes to show you how it's just kind of there's a lot of distance between some of these teams in the Eastern Conference. Another late loss by the Riverhounds on Wednesday night. They've had a handful of these late losses this year, and I believe it's going to come back to haunt them. I don't see how you lose to Jacksonville and then at home you turn around and lose to Brooklyn at home. Both expansion teams, both teams that just are terrible right now. Both teams that are sitting at 11 and 13 points, and honestly, last Saturday they were just hanging on by the skin of their teeth, very close to drawing that match as well. If it wasn't for the penalty kick late and Sam Bassett just burying the shot, but this team is they're too inconsistent. They don't close games out. I don't know what it is. We've talked about it before. As Ed alluded to, I don't know whether it's substitutions. I don't know whether it's just lack of stamina, whether they're just not – I don't know. Whether they're just – to me, when you lose games late in stoppage time, to me, that's the first thing that comes to mind when I hear that is, they're too tired. They're too tired to close out a game. It's fatigue, So I don't know what the answer is from that standpoint, but listen, they're not in terrible shape. You're sitting 4th with 33 points. You're only 2 points down from the third place
DCS.
Detroit. So it's not like it's not like they're you know, on the outside looking in, but they need to go on a run here. And you had you had that game in the bag. My God, it was 5 minutes stoppage time. You end up losing it in the 94th minute. I mean, that's uncalled for. That's uncalled for. I would like to be in a fly on the wall when Rob Vincent addressed the team. In the locker room after that. I would have loved even more if Bob Lilly was the coach to be a fly on the wall, because he would have ripped them a new one. You know. And, Ed and I were talking about it. You really didn't see that with Bob Lilly. You didn't see a lot of late. Right, Ed? Am I correct? You didn't really see a lot of late losses. Like
he was more. He was definitely focused more on the defensive side of the ball, where Rob is trying to balance both of them. I mean, a team that struggles to score is going to struggle to win, right? Even as good as you are on defense, they still struggle to score. One of the best games we saw was the home win, 3-1 over the Charleston Battery. They really dominated that game, and they play well at home. They're able to defend home. But
that Ed wrote, by the way, I always cover the crap. I always get the 0-0 games. That's me. I've a handful of games that I've written this year have been 0-0. It's like, okay, how do I write about this? How the hell do I write about a 0-0 draw? Whereas Ed gets the 3-1 wins. He always
there are some amazing passes.
It never failed. Yeah. I mean, just 4 sentences on on controlling time of possession. So
I mean, it'll be an interesting playoff. I think Tampa Bay is strong going in. El Paso, New Mexico. I think it's going to be won by the East again. The East seems to be stronger, although the West is tight. I think the East is stronger than the West is right now. It's going to be a good playoffs. Can't wait.
What'll be interesting, this will be the only thing I add to this, is with El Paso Locomotive being tied for first in the West, is the fact that they are increasingly one of the most marketable teams that are out there. Because Cristo Fernandez,
right.
his entire claim to fame is football is life. And
right.
if you're El Paso Loco, you played that so well.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It is such a good marketing move, and we'll talk about this maybe next week with Jeff Garner. But
they need to market that, turn that into some money and replace that freaking field, or get a new, because that is god awful. My God, I mean,
not nice. The baseball stadium is great, but it's not a great place to play.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, exactly. You know that very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're putting down for the infield, but God, that stuff doesn't look like it's alive. It looks like it's
spray paint.
Yeah. So,
well, with the new aspects going in with USL Premier and everything like that, it might force certain changes, as the USL is really trying to go after MLS with some of this stuff. And I figure I'll mention this super quick, and we can always go back to everything else before. But next week, both of you and I, will have a delightful conversation with Mr. Jeff Garner. If you those don't know, he is actually the president of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. He'll be talking the squad itself here. I actually had to respectfully move myself there. So Ed's in full shot. He deserves that.
Yeah, I see that guy all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because he knew who you guys were right out of the gate. He's like, oh, yeah. So it was very easy. I emailed him on like a Tuesday, and he wrote me back Wednesday. It was that fast. So he's down to talk this. I want to talk to him a little. We're going to talk a little bit about USL Premier, promotion, relegation, which has always been a massive, massive component of a lot of this, because there's some major push in the MLS to get it, but geographically speaking and TV markets, it'll never happen, because if you lose Chicago and Boise, Idaho comes in, you lose that fan base, kills it. But I'm interested to get his perspective on that, the Riverhounds, anything you guys have as well.
The stadium.
The stadium's going to be part of it too, because they're dropping major coin into really upgrading the stadium.
Yeah.
Which furthers my belief that they're making a push at MLS.
Well, I just want to know. I mean, I know it may be hard for him to maybe divulge some of the details, but I don't know. It's probably a kind of a very little bit of a touchy subject, because we're hearing, Ed and I are hearing so many conflicting reports on the whole groundbreaking of this stadium. So.
Well, in fairness, I told him it's going to be a pre-record, so we'll fix anything in post as we need to.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
But
Yeah, that's probably something you want to handle a little bit with caution.
Well, you're just going to ask for an update. That's all. Let him talk.
Right.
Well,
Absolutely. Yeah. That's where to. Yeah. Exactly.
we'll clear beforehand of basically what we're able to talk about and everything like that. But still, president of the defending champ is actually not a bad get in its own right. So, but we'll talk about his and, like I said, the future of USL. And I don't know. I guess my question is, if the USL gets big enough, could we get a USFL or an AFL type scenario where they merge with MLS in some ways? If it gets big enough, because I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the USL, the first iteration.
Yeah,
they were pushing hard to really take over the NFL.
Well, and the biggest problem I remember, he wanted. It was Donald. I mean, it was Donald Trump's fault because I don't think he should have gone headlong against them.
He owned my team.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. That
Worked my childhood hard.
Yeah, I don't know if he should have gone against them head to head. I think if he had done some sort of a, if he had a better marketing team to do some sort of a spring league. But the fact of the matter is, he got all the stars. They just couldn't maintain it money wise because he went right against the NFL.
Yeah, and during the middle of the baseball season too.
Right.
So I bounce between the Mets and the Generals constantly.
Should have been a join them and then later overtake them type scenario.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember the Washington, Federals. I went to a couple games. They had Craig Jings running back. I mean, it was fun to watch. I remember all of it.
Stars. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good experience. The 80s. Kids,
yes, the 80s.
But, all right. So, yeah, that's actually, like I said, so it'll be an interesting conversation that we have with Mr. Garner next week about, the USL plus life, the universe, and everything. So, okay. So, moving on to the next thing right now, and arguably one of the bigger things as well, since we're on standings and whatnot, we'll go into Leagues Cup in a little bit. But is it too early to start thinking Nashville and Vancouver in a final? Let's take a look at the standings real quick on this. I want to talk a little bit about where things stand as far as Nashville goes, because right now, Nashville at this point is undefeated. They're 10-0-1 in the standings right now at home. And that is the wrong image right there, so give me a sec. There we go. So, you've got a Nashville squad right now that is completely 100% running away with this. Now, the most wins in an MLS season at home is 14. It was done twice. Red Bulls did it once, and also DC United did it back in the era where they still had shootouts. This is a team that, given the fact that they have a weak home schedule, could set an MLS record for the most points at home in a season. And I'm going to be very curious to see if that ends up happening there, because this team is just so strong on so many fronts. If you look at that goal differential, it's insane. And the question remains in this case, from Vancouver's standpoint, do you think they can keep it up?
I don't see any way Nashville loses the East. I mean, it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful stadium. Good Lord.
Yes.
What a beautiful stadium. And the way they're built, I think they're going to, all you have to do is look at any sport, right? I mean, any sport. Go look at the MLB standings. Anybody who's in red is not going to make it, even if they have a good record. You just look to the green, and it's every sport is the exact same way. Football, point differential, hockey, but everything's the same. So to maintain that goal differential means they can score and they can play defense. So they're my pick to win it all. And I think they can beat anybody from the West.
Well, here's what really the deciding factor for me was to when they made that statement win in the lopsided win over Inter Miami 4-1. And went ahead and went 5 points clear at the top of the Supporters Shield race. That was like, I was like, okay, this team is for real. I mean, this team is for real. At this point in time, yeah, I'm with Ed. I think they're gonna run away with it.
Yeah.
Both these teams have gotten ridiculously close the last couple of years. Obviously, Vancouver especially. I think also with the concerns about Vancouver leaving, and going back down to the U.S., which Canada's probably constantly like, why can't we have nice things? The aspect of that is probably adding fuel to the fire. Berhalter leaving probably hurts the team a little bit, but they're rallying around that Vancouver Canadian love that they've got going on right there. And a squad that hurt last year. And you see what this team is. You see this team leveling up after what happened last year. and is in such a strong position. And as far as Nashville goes, they've gotten close repeatedly, but that is a squad, again, that is a team that is built on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
43 goals, so far, scored
Well-
17 against. That's good.
No, I was just going to say Vancouver, have hit a little bit of a rough patch as of late. But, I mean, that was a great win the other day against Seattle, 2-0. And that was their first victory since July 8th. It's hard to believe that. But,
Well,
Yeah, and you look at their goal differential, too, 27.
huh?
Burps happen in a season, but to still maintain that anyway.
Right, exactly. That's my point. I mean, they're still a very, they're still a team to be reckoned with. They hit a rough patch; it really doesn't affect them. That just goes to show you. I think it's safe to say, I think the East is
Not as strong. There's no. I mean, look. You look
Right.
at the Indians and you look at Vancouver. I mean,
Right.
45 goals scored, 18 goals against, 27 goal
Right.
differential.
Yep.
They with only 40 points, right?
Right.
That just tells you that the West is stronger, and
Right.
and they're going to have a tougher ride than Miami. I mean, from 1-3 in the West, it's a 5-point difference. It's a 2-game swing. You add in, San Jose, 3-game swing.
Right.
And then you have Dallas as well, and you have St. Louis. So there's only 7 points between the first place and the sixth place team. And you look at 10 points clear for Nashville. I don't know how they, especially the way they play, I don't know how they lose. Right,
Right.
The East. I think
Barring injury.
and Vancouver, they could still make the playoffs, but they could be any one of these teams could be first or any first or fourth. I think those top four are tight, but then you add in Dallas and St. Louis, it's going to be tight in the West. So Vancouver might not enter as the number one team in the West, but they're going to be
similar. I mean, we're seeing it's similar to what you're seeing in the USL. It mirrors each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So.
But Nashville's just so far ahead; they're going to win the points race in the MLS.
And not to be undersold, but the Houston Dynamo.
Yes.
Second place in the West. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been very quiet and under the radar. It's funny because Texas isn't really a hotbed for the soccer community.
Not at all.
FC Dallas kills my soul. Petar Musa just is signing a long-term deal. He had options for Europe, but he's staying in Dallas. That team gets 11,000 fans a game. The Dynamo aren't getting much better because in Texas, it's NFL country. It's football country, totally. Even down the high school level.
Yeah.
And
it.
Go ahead.
No, it's just funny. I saw an interview with Dave Durr. I don't know if you guys remember him that used to coach the Dallas Burn back in the day, and he was saying about their early success, and he was saying how Dallas really supported them. There was all these, he said there was like Dallas Burn stuff at the airports and stuff. I'm like, really? Like I just kind of found that hard to believe. I mean, especially back in the 90s. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I question that. I mean, it's a
But you look at, let's see, where's Houston right now? Houston's averaging 18,000 a game. They're fifth or sixth worth right now overall.
Wow, that's pretty darn good for Houston.
FC Dallas. I mean, my God, they're averaging 11,000 fans a game. Wow. I mean, their stadium's only capable of 20,000. But the stadium's only capable of 20,000, but they're getting barely half that.
That's what I'm saying.
It's Jerry Jones's country.
Right.
Everyone else just
it's just not. It's not a hotbed for soccer. It's just
that's
not.
With the addition of Cooper Flag with the Mavericks and what they did. But I wanted to address a point and see what you guys thought. So after the World Cup disaster of the final game and Argentinian players and their behavior and all that, I mean, have you seen it? I mean, I watch MLS not as much as you do, Scott, but have you seen any sort of, whistling or cat calling when the Argentinians get the ball? Because in Europe, I was watching Premier League and I heard it a couple times, and people were saying that they're not the most popular players right now.
That they aren't. Even Messi, despite what obviously happened to his father, is still pretty unpopular. It's funny because Messi, I think, is divided into camps. You have your hardcore devoted fans, and then you have like everybody else. And Messi can do no wrong, or Messi can do no right.
Right.
Yeah. There's no in between.
It pretty much, yeah. And even with the basically do no right, they have to acknowledge he's still a talent. And he's still a force on that pitch. Because he is that quiet player, that fox, if you will. And in this case, I haven't seen too much Argentinian response in this case, because I think people are more focused on what their team is doing and how that's been. I will tell you outright, though, is when Matt Freese took the ball right after what happened with him in Belgium. That Columbus match, he got booed on the Columbus match. And even when NYCFC, and they had their first match at home, it was pretty lukewarm for that first game. He touched that ball because there was clearly a grudge. He bucknered. Granted, he bucknered. But the reality is that team was not going to beat Belgium anyway. They weren't strong enough.
Right.
But the average fan is more interested in, I need somebody to blame, so it's going to be you. And not really. Yeah.
It's always, they always blame the goalkeeper,
Yeah. Because it's an easy target. Listen, it was a mistake and a gaffe, and I suspect, it's funny because NYCFC really, really protects him. We have not gotten any minutes with him this year because they're doing something. I'm not even sure if they're allowed to do this, but they've kind of sequestered him this entire season, and they leave him in the locker room for like a good hour till all of us are like, screw it, I want to go home. We'll get Tavon to talk about his contract, or Micha, or Sands, or any of these guys, but Matt hides. So, but in this case, I suspect in that moment he was afraid the ball was going to bounce off of one of his players. That's why he stutter stepped there. That's what I think of after having watched it a few times. That's what he was thinking in the moment, and obviously it gaffed royally. And here, don't forget, in the New Jersey, New York area, we had a place kicker do this for the Giants last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Koo did this and basically hit turf, and was arguably the worst individual moment in New York Giants history. Not the worst in my mind, but some have argued that. And, it brought back immediate parallels. And again, I fell for the kid because I was old enough to remember Buckner. I mean, obviously from a different side of the fence, but, the fallout that happened to it. And weirdly enough, his redemption arc in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
I did 2 days on that. I remember Buckner on that. He saved the kid.
Yep.
And it was built the same exact way. And I was there for the Larry David era and the saving of the baby. And I was like, this is so good. Larry David wrote that as a redemption arc for Bill Buckner. And I thought that was freaking gold.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I think at this point there's no Argentinian part. There's Inter Miami hate. I mean, certainly. Because basically Inter Miami is the team everyone loves to hate at this point. But as far as like individual country based, no. Long story short, no.
Okay.
That's surprising because I'll tell you what, like I know there's a lot of globally. Ed hit it on the head. There's just people look at Argentina and their behavior in this last World Cup, and they're like why? Like you won in 22. Like you were what you ungrateful. I don't know. There's just I don't know. It's hard to believe.
It's also hard to sell to non-soccer fans when they do what they do with their antics, right? Mm-hmm. Why are they doing this? I go, well, it's called the dark arts, and they're like, what? And it's just for me that's one thing I wish, and they implemented some new rules that just needs to be cleaned up. Make it the beautiful game. That's why the NHL got rid of the clutching and grabbing. That's why the NHL changed the offside rule. Really want to see, I really want to monitor the Canadian League, see what that does. Since they changed the, to the run to daylight. I want to see how that works with that, model up there. So I just wish it would go back to the beautiful game because it's much better to watch.
Yeah. No, and it's going to be, obviously, we should probably talk about this at some point. I wish I thought prepped you guys on this ahead of time. But the new proposed playoff system in MLS, which is taking a page off the Australian Football League system, where you can lose a game and still not be eliminated. But we'll deep dive that one once we have a formal announcement on that. That's something that I think Larry Berg is putting his stamp on. So far, it has actually been unpopular on a fan perspective. But again, more playoffs equals more mad revenue, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll deep dive that one because
that's fascinating.
Boy, I needed explanation from ChatGPT for like 10 minutes to explain that to me because my brain just couldn't process how that worked.
Yeah.
Because it's broken into like 3 different tiers, and then this tier here has a single elimination that goes against this tier, and then the loser of this tier here can play these guys to move back up, and it's just like, holy shit on a stick, man.
Maybe between UEFA and Europa, if you're out early in UEFA, you can go to Europa.
Yeah.
Somehow.
But it's such a convoluted system that's going to be more playoff matches. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't hate. Eventually, I didn't hate the best of 3 that they had. I didn't like it initially, but I like the intrigue of it, and I think it gave underdog teams a better chance. Atlanta beating Inter Miami, NYCFC beating Cincinnati in 2024. You see teams like this that have the chance to do a best of three, and it makes it a little more interesting. This just takes that and kicks it right out the window.
Yep.
But conversation for another time once it becomes a formal announcement. You can count on that.
Awesome.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, before we move on to probably the last thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So last thing that we've got in this one right now is talking Leagues Cup. U.S. is out. Or shall we say MLS is out. The streak is snapped, and it's all going to be on the south side of everything. Let me know your thoughts on this, if you got any in this case.
So, how serious does the MLS take it? First of all, I've read many articles that say
officially or truthfully.
Truthfully,
not very.
Right. I mean,
if you look at basically, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
it destroys the ratings as well.
I mean, in this case here, watching NYCFC and a lot of these other players, they're thinking, unofficially speaking, on the MLS season. I think if they had a bona fide shot and they were close, it's a different chance. It's a different thing here if you're in like the Final Four. But with NYCFC, for example, they have such a massive injury issue. With Alonso being out, Hannes Wolf was out, Keaton just broke his hand and now he's back. You have all of these players that are injured. You start thinking a lot more from the perspective of what do I need for the MLS season versus throwing everything. They had so many substitutions in that last game that you clearly could tell they were phoning it in.
Well, especially in this season, in the World Cup season. I mean, this is just like, if you're an MLS team, there's just distractions everywhere. And I mean, I'm with Ed. How much do they really? They don't really care about this. I mean, the fact that there's 0 MLS clubs remaining in the competition, it's an all Mexican Final Four. They don't care. They're focused more on, on the actual MLS. Cup and whether
season, yeah,
right, yeah. I mean, you've had all this. You've had the World Cup. You've had all this stuff. I mean, you've got to kind of at this point in time, if you're a team, you kind of got to prioritize, right? You kind of got to look at like 50-meter targets, right? Like what are we looking to accomplish here? We've already been having, we had our season already, derailed by the World Cup, and now, like what are we focused ultimately? What are we focusing on here? And the fact that there's, like I said, 0 MLS clubs remaining in the competition, I don't think they care.
Well, maybe not this. I mean, listen, they had a good run. Inter Miami won, Seattle won. So, but in this case, I think in a lot of ways the World Cup probably burned them out a little bit. And that was another thing too. You had the World Cup, and then you had a couple MLS matches. Now you got Leagues Cup, which completely breaks up the schedule and how things are going here. But yeah, you got to worry about burnout because remember, this is a season that can go as far as December.
Yeah. Well, let's look at how the MLS was eliminated. Let's look at that. Club America 2-0.
Let me pull the scores back up here. Give me a second.
Yeah, Club America 2-0 over to Columbus Crew. Toluca 2-0 over Austin FC. Club Leon 3-0 over Real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I mean, the only match that was close was Monterey and Chicago Fire, which was 2-1.
And that was Lewandowski too. Don't forget that too.
Right. So, I mean, that should tell you all you need to know, that these clubs are just kind of like, going through the motions.
Yeah, but if you look at a lot of the also looking at the team rankings too, you can see the the difference here. Club America, third overall versus Austin being 24. Cruz Azul 4 to 18.
Right,
okay, TJ and that's close. But Monterey, Chicago, you're seeing, Toluca, Austin. You're seeing such a difference in the overall rankings here.
Right.
So, I mean, would it surprise me if it's Toluca and Club America? Probably not.
No.
But
no.
If you're Mexico, though, you know what? You're all in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I was there in 2022 for Campeones Cup. Campeones Cup is the match where, the Liga MX champion plays a one-game playoff against the MLS champ. They go all in on that. Because one game, single elimination, winner gets trophy. And I was there because that snapped the NYCFC losing streak at that point. Gave them a trophy, and then they had a good run to the Eastern Conference Final that year. So, that's a different thing than an entire league. All in, one game, one trophy. Sure, you throw everything against the wall. But here, like I said, you still have to play through November. And also with the MLS season running slightly later right now because of that. NYCFC had 6 matches in 18 games, if you include Leagues Cup into that this month.
Yeah.
They had 6 games between their most recent game against New England and Toronto. They had 6 days between. That was the best they've had this month.
Wow.
And honestly, Liga MX is really going to benefit from this.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, I think they automatically qualify, right, for the 2027 CONCACAF, right?
Yes, also true.
Yeah. So,
But yeah,
Well, it
that's
also-
another one.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest problems that has always existed within this league is that you have Leagues Cup, you got CONCACAF, you have leagues within leagues, and you have to worry about player burnout, especially next season, not just with MLS, but MLS Next Pro, because of the fact they got the sprint season going on. You have the 14-game season, and then the regular season starting after that. I don't know how the teams are going to handle that. I'm going to eventually find out, but the sprint season, I love it. I'm so Jones for that.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
I mean, you had to do it sometime, but it's just crazy that you're doing it the year after the World Cup. It's just
They got it done.
Well,
Eventually, you're going to have to pull the Band-Aid off, so why not do it?
Why not do it? I get it.
And even Europe is like, you know what? Finally, MLS is coming around. Europe treats MLS like crap. I see it on my TikTok constantly. It's like, okay, you're not even a AAA league. You're a garbage league. You're where old people go to retire. But even they had to admit, okay, good, you finally made a move here.
Well, yeah. I mean, they can say that, but it's still in the top 10 of leagues in the world. So
yeah, but again, when you're trained on Premier League and and all of these top tier EFL, everything else is basically like it's like your strip steak and their your filet mignon and their beef jerky. So,
yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you a question about MLS Next. You think that's going to suffer when the USL goes to their expansion and promotion and relegation?
I don't know. Boy, here's where this gets really complicated because soccer here in the U.S. is such a different entity than the rest of the world because of the academy set up and how everything is done. I don't know if it's really going to suffer on that part of it. I think what could happen is and let me know your thoughts if different. I think it's easier to get into the MLS. I'm sorry, into the USL than it is to say MLS Next Pro, because you can come out of the college level. You can be signed as an independent. You can do certain things that allows an aspect of this. And when you have, you know what? I'm going to start. My opinion is being formed as I'm talking about this. Yes, I think so. Because as the USL continues to grow and it adds more teams and you have more leagues in there, you see players that have an opportunity to come in literally on an open audition and land a spot. Okay, maybe they're not making good money, but you know what? They're building their audition tape.
Right.
And they're building credibility and they're playing in front of fans and they're doing the thing they've wanted to do. And I think you see certain, even if it's like, say, USL 2, you get somebody right there who's playing for, say, Brooklyn. Brooklyn's having a tough season right now, granted, but you're like, you know what? I'm playing pro ball. And I think it's a good opportunity for that. Whereas MLS Next Pro, I think, is more geared towards the youth movement and basically the kids who have been groomed from birth to get to that point. I think maybe that's a conversation with Mr. Garner next week to talk about USL and its growth. And like I said, the decision to go Premier and ProRel, clearly shows that they're trying to take on something big here. And we'll deep dive that a little bit later, but there's their window because they don't have Apple TV.
And I was thinking as you're talking, going back to your point, challenging the MLS, eventually the USL is going to be massive. And I mean massive, right? Yeah. Already, I think they're much bigger already, but they're going to be in markets where the MLS they're not even getting a sniff, right?
Boise has a team.
Right.
Boise has nothing.
Right.
Oh, actually, here's a great example. Next week, I should let you guys know, I'm going to take a 4-day weekend. I'm heading up to Maine. So from Friday to Monday for Labor Day weekend. We looked at Hearts of Pine up there.
Right.
Tickets for Hearts of Pine are averaging $150 each at a minimum because Maine has nothing except the USL team and one college team. Right. So, yeah, your point is dead on.
Yeah. Do you think somebody like and this is going to come to a head. It has to. Like the supreme leader of soccer in America. Let's say we have a soccer czar. Are they eventually going to say, "Hey guys, to make us stronger, we got to build this. We got to build a pyramid, right?"
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense. I mean, we have more teams than probably anybody in the world.
Yeah.
The size of our country and the money we have. So, I mean, what's the guess? Maybe there's 300 pro soccer teams, maybe more than that.
I'd say it's a solid number.
Yeah. So does U.S. Soccer come in and say, U.S. Soccer come in and say, hey guys, we want to compete for the next World Cup and World Cups thereafter. We have to build a pyramid. We have to build a model that works for it, because you're getting people. I mean, look at El Paso. I mean, they have UTEPs there. They have a minor league baseball team, but that team, there were still fans there. Look at New Mexico. New Mexico doesn't have any pro sports, right? Go to all these little, all these other states that don't have anything. I mean, it's harder to get up and say, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, but if you can do it in Boise, you can do it in those other places too.
I like that. Look at Hearts of Pine is a great example.
Yeah.
Maine. I've been up to Maine so many times in the last 10 years. They have been clamoring for something like this because all they had was the Maine Black Bears, the college team.
Right.
That's all they had. And now they have an actual soccer team. It's in Portland.
Amazing.
It's the biggest city. It's the biggest city in Maine. Even can draw in a little bit from, like, say, New Hampshire and Vermont as well on top of that, because it's on the southern part of Maine. But yeah, I looked at StubHub tickets the other day. They're 150 to 500.
Where do they play? They have their own stadium, or is it a municipal stadium up there?
You know what? I forgot. I looked at that too. Cassidy Point, Portland. Yeah, they play at Fitzpatrick Stadium.
Nice.
And you know what? In that region too, I've been up there. You have a lot of you have some European transplants too up in that area.
Yeah. Because also you can draw from Canada on top
from Canada. Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Toronto's like an hour and a half.
Right. Yeah. So you have
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just entered into an agreement to buy land at Cassidy Point, where they're going to build. They're building a new stadium now.
Wow, that's amazing.
They're playing at Fitzpatrick Stadium, which I think it's a college stadium or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they're building a 10,000 some odd seat stadium, and they just bought land because their numbers are insane.
That's
right.
And that's what I'm going off on a tangent, but this is what I've been rooting for places like the Montanas and the North Dakota, where we're spoiled. You have 3 or 4 teams there. Here in New York, New Jersey, we're overrun with it. But I've always imagined what it's like to live in some place like Bismarck, North Dakota, where you got high school and a couple of college, and that's it.
That's it.
And they have a beautiful arena. They have the Fargo Dome up there, which I'm telling you, they packed that thing. If you added something there, like an MLS team, they'd play in the Fargo Dome, right?
Yeah.
To start off.
I always wanted teams to go up there, but they don't. No team in general. NFL, NBA, they like I said, Boise has 280,000 people in it. It's prime for USL, but NFL and teams like that, they won't touch it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Sounds good, gentlemen.
Yeah. So all right. You guys have anything else? Or you think we're good?
I think we're good.
I'm good.
All right, appreciate it. Like I said, next week we have Mr. Jeff Garner, president of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, to talk the sport, to talk the future of the league, and life in the universe and everything. As always, I'm Scott Schertzen. Joining me, and I appreciate the time, as always, is Mr. Bill Akins and Mr. Ed Quinn. Find them on Streampunk Sports PA for their coverage of both the Riverhounds and the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. And find me here in cinema as well and whatever I got going on. Anyway, so thanks as always. Appreciate the time. Take care. Have a great weekend and stay awesome.